the explosion will likely exacerbate Lebanon's slide towards economic collapse, stoking further social tensions and civil unrest in the country. Maybe expound a bit on where you think that's going to lead to.
Look, I think Lebanon is ill-equipped financially now to deal with the fallout from this explosion, right? They're talking about $5 billion at least in damages. That's in addition to, dead, wounded, people who've lost their livelihoods. This is going to stoke some real tension. I am wary of giving an exact picture of where this is going to go towards, because I'm not a prophet. What I can say is that we're already seeing anger bubbling on the Lebanese street against the authorities. They want accountability. For what it's worth, one of the most prominent hashtags in Lebanon is "Ready the Gallows." Right? The Lebanese want revenge against the officials that failed them. If the suggestion is that this will specifically target a specific group or political entity in Lebanon, namely Hezbollah, I'm not so certain. I think that was the mistake that people made when the October 17, 2019 uprising started. Some people framed it as an anti-Hezbollah, specifically anti-Hezbollah movement. It wasn't. And I think it would be a mistake to say that absent some indication that Hezbollah was behind this, or that it was their failure that led to this, that this will target Hezbollah specifically.
Right. Now, Giora, of course, Hezbollah, that's Israel's main interest in terms of security in Lebanon. I guess there are some who think this may distract Hezbollah from its focus we've seen, for example, on the Israeli border. Others concerned that kind of unrest could provoke Hezbollah to strike out at Israel, maybe as a distraction. I mean, looking from your experience with Lebanon, where do you think is most likely could lead to?
I believe that, first of all, I must say that I'm sure that there's no involvement of Israel in that crisis. And actually, I believe that Hezbollah is not involved specifically in that event as well. I believe that it was an accident. I believe that negligence, carelessness is involved, but I prefer to wait to the conclusion or the result of the investigation or the official investigation of the Lebanese government. Anyway, I believe that from the Israeli point of view, it's put Hezbollah in a very difficult situation. I mean, personally, I'm sure that they won't have any attention to response or to revenge, as Nasrallah promised, and they will be very, very, very busy these days in the internal issues in Lebanon. I believe, maybe it sounds too far, but I believe that such event can even bring Nasrallah career to its end. Because when it comes together with as we heard, the economical crisis and the collapse of the Lebanese government and the Lebanese economy, the people of Lebanon gonna have Hezbollah as
right, as a sort of, yes, as blaming it. But let me ask David.
It was clear to blame.
Right. Let me ask David about that. I mean, does that sound reasonable, or maybe it's a little wishful Israeli thinking, David? No. That kind of scenario. Well, let me ask Giora. Let me get David's view. I'm sorry, we don't have the audio, David. Yeah. No.
I agree wholeheartedly on the assessment that Israel was definitely not involved. I think that's a conspiracy theory at this point. Hezbollah also, I think, is not involved. I think this was gross negligence. Could this lead to Hezbollah's collapse? I think if some linkage is made to the group, I mean, look, Lebanon has had a history of violence. Beirut has been no stranger to, civil wars, the Israeli invasion, what have you. This is of a different magnitude altogether. This is probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to a city that has a history of having bad things happen to it. If Hezbollah is viewed as the entity, or it is proven or demonstrated that Hezbollah is the entity that is behind all of this suffering, I think even their base at that point will start to look and say, these people really don't care for us. Like, how could they sit on a mini nuclear weapon for 6 years, feet away from us, and do nothing about it when they claim everything they do is for the security of the Lebanese people? So I think that will puncture this myth that Hezbollah has created, that everything they do is for Lebanon. But it remains to be seen if Hezbollah is involved at all. My sense, again, it's hard to say at this point. I don't want to get ahead of any investigations. But my sense is this was just pure gross negligence.
Right.